I never thought a single piece of paper could change everything. But sitting here now, 3 months later, in my new corner office, overlooking downtown Chicago, I realize that sometimes the quietest moments create the loudest impact. It was a typical rainy Tuesday morning in October when everything fell apart, the kind of morning where the rain hits the windows of our downtown office building like bullets. And you know it's going to be one of those days. I had been working at Creative Stream Media for almost 4 years, helping build what started as a small YouTube content agency into one of the fastest growing digital media companies in the Midwest. My name is Sarah, and I was the head of content strategy. Or at least I thought I was. You see, that morning I discovered something that would shake everything I believed about loyalty, hard work, and the people I trusted most. I got to the office around 8:30, earlier than usual, because I wanted to finish the quarterly presentation that would showcase our team's incredible growth numbers. The elevator was out of order again, so I took the stairs to the 5th floor. The familiar smell of coffee and the sound of keyboards clicking greeted me, but something felt off. Marcus, our CEO and my boss for the past 4 years, was already in his glass office. Through the walls I could see him on a video call, waving his hands around like he always did when he got excited. Nothing new there. Marcus was always in meetings, always talking, always promising clients the moon. That was just Marcus. I sat down at my desk, opened my laptop, and started going through the presentation slides one more time. We had increased our clients' YouTube subscriber counts by an average of 300% over the past year. Our client retention rate was 92%. Revenue had doubled. These weren't just numbers to me. They represented countless late nights, weekend work, and genuine care for every single project that walked through our doors. "Sarah, can you come in here for a sec?" Marcus called from his office around 9:15. I grabbed my coffee mug and walked over. The office felt unusually quiet. Most of my team hadn't arrived yet, which was normal for a Tuesday morning. But there was something in the air, like that feeling you get right before a thunderstorm hits. "Close the door behind you," Marcus said without looking up from his computer screen. That should have been my first red flag. In 4 years, Marcus had never asked me to close his door. We were the kind of company that prided itself on transparency, open communication, flat hierarchy. At least, that's what I thought. I closed the door and sat down in the chair across from his desk. The leather was cold against my back, and I remember thinking how the gray Chicago skyline looked particularly gloomy that morning. "So, I need to talk to you about something," Marcus began, finally looking at me. His expression was serious, but not the kind of serious that comes with bad news about a client or a missed deadline. This was different. This was the kind of serious that makes your stomach drop. "What's up?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Well, we've been doing some restructuring, and we've decided to bring in someone new for the content strategy position." The words hit me like a physical blow. I felt my coffee mug slip slightly in my hands, and I had to grip it tighter to keep from dropping it. "I'm sorry, what?" I managed to say. "We're bringing in Jessica Wu from Trendset Digital. She's got amazing experience with enterprise-level YouTube campaigns, and we think she'll be a great fit for where we're heading." Jessica Wu. I knew that name. She was good, really good, but she was also expensive and had a reputation for being difficult to work with. More importantly, she was everything I wasn't. She went to Harvard, had connections in Silicon Valley, and came from old money. "So what does that mean for me?" I asked, even though I was pretty sure I already knew the answer. "Well, we'd love to keep you on the team, maybe as a senior content specialist, reporting to Jessica. It would be a slight adjustment in salary, of course, but you'd still be doing what you love. A slight adjustment in salary, reporting to someone who would be doing the job I had been doing for 4 years. The job I had helped create from nothing." I sat there for a moment, letting it all sink in. The rain was getting heavier outside, and I could hear it drumming against the window. The sound reminded me of my childhood in Ohio, sitting in my bedroom during storms, feeling small and powerless. "When does this take effect?" I asked. "Jessica starts Monday. We'll make the announcement to the team this afternoon." This afternoon, they were going to announce my demotion to my own team this afternoon, without even giving me a heads up until now. My team, the people I had hired, trained and worked alongside for years. "Marcus, can I ask you something?" "Sure. Was this decision based on performance? Because our numbers are incredible. We've exceeded every single target you've set for us. Marcus shifted in his chair, and for the first time since I'd known him, he looked uncomfortable. It's not about performance, Sarah. It's about vision, big picture thinking. Jessica brings a level of strategic insight that we need as we scale. Strategic insight, big picture thinking. Fancy words for you're not good enough anymore. I nodded slowly, trying to process everything. 4 years of 60-hour weeks, 4 years of missing family dinners, canceling weekend plans, and putting this company before everything else in my life. 4 years of believing that hard work and results mattered more than anything else. I need some time to think about this, I said, standing up. Of course, take all the time you need, but I do need an answer by Thursday so we can get everything sorted before Jessica starts. I walked back to my desk feeling like I was moving through water. Everything looked the same. My computer, my coffee-stained mousepad, the little succulent plant my sister had given me for my birthday. But nothing felt real anymore. I tried to focus on work, but I couldn't concentrate. Every few minutes, I'd catch myself staring at the wall, thinking about what had just happened. Around 11, my phone buzzed with a text from my best friend, Kate. Coffee later? I have news. I texted back, can't today, work stuff. But then I changed my mind. I needed to get out of the office, away from Marcus's glass walls, and the curious looks from my teammates who were starting to trickle in. Actually, yes, meet me at Brew and Bean in 20. Kate was already there when I arrived, sitting at our usual table by the window. She took one look at my face and knew something was wrong. What happened? She asked, as I slumped into the chair across from her. I told her everything. The meeting, the demotion, the salary cut. Kate listened without interrupting, her expression getting more and more angry with each detail. Are you kidding me? She said, when I finished. After everything you've done for that company? I just don't understand it, I said, stirring my latte absently. Our team has the best results in the company. Our clients love us. What more could they want? Kate leaned forward. Sarah, this isn't about your performance. This is about politics. This Jessica person probably has connections they want. Or maybe she's willing to work for equity instead of a high salary. Companies do this stuff all the time. So what am I supposed to do? Take the demotion and pretend everything's fine? Hell no, Kate said firmly. You're too good for that place anyway. You should start your own agency. I laughed, but it came out bitter. With what money? I've been putting everything into my 401k and paying off student loans. I've got maybe 3 months of expenses saved up. Then find another job. With your track record, you could have interviews lined up by next week. She was right, of course. I knew I was good at what I did. I had the results to prove it. But the thought of starting over somewhere new, of having to prove myself all over again, felt exhausting. I went back to the office that afternoon with a plan to quietly start job hunting. I'd take a few days to think about Marcus's offer, update my resume, and start reaching out to contacts. It wasn't ideal, but it was practical. But then something happened that changed everything. Around 3 o'clock, Marcus called an all-hands meeting. The entire team, all 15 of us, gathered in the conference room. I sat in my usual spot near the back, trying to look calm, while my heart pounded in my chest. So, I wanted to let everyone know about some exciting changes coming to our content strategy team. Marcus began. We're bringing in a new head of content strategy, Jessica Wu, who's going to help us take things to the next level. I watched my team's faces as he spoke. Confusion, surprise, concern. These people looked up to me. I had hired half of them myself. Emma, our junior content creator, caught my eye and gave me a questioning look. I managed a small smile and nodded, trying to signal that everything was okay. Sarah will be transitioning to a senior content specialist role, where she'll be able to focus more on the hands-on creative work she loves. Marcus continued, the hands-on creative work I love, as if this had been my idea, as if I had asked for this. Any questions? Marcus asked. The room was silent for a moment. Then Jake, one of our senior video editors, raised his hand. What's Jessica's background? I mean, Sarah's been killing it for us. Our retention rate is insane. Jessica comes from Trendset Digital, where she managed campaigns for some really impressive clients. She's got a great strategic mind for scaling operations. More corporate speak. I could see my team exchanging glances, and I knew they weren't buying it any more than I was. After the meeting, several team members came up to me privately. "Sarah, what the hell?" Emma whispered, as we walked back to our desks. "This makes no sense." "It's fine," I said, though we both knew it wasn't. Sometimes companies need to shake things up. But it wasn't fine. Over the next 2 days, I watched as the news spread through the office. I could feel people's eyes on me, could hear the whispered conversations that stopped when I walked by. The worst part was the pity. These people felt sorry for me, and that hurt more than the demotion itself. Thursday morning came, and I still hadn't given Marcus an answer. I had spent the previous evening updating my LinkedIn profile and reaching out to a few recruiters, but I hadn't heard back from anyone yet. The practical thing to do was to accept the demotion, keep my paycheck, and job hunt quietly. But as I sat at my desk that morning, looking at the quarterly report I had spent weeks perfecting, something inside me snapped. This report represented everything I had built at Creative Stream. Every client success story, every innovative strategy, every late night that had paid off in incredible results. And now they wanted to hand it all over to someone else and pretend I should be grateful for the scraps. I opened my laptop and started typing. "Dear Marcus and the Creative Stream Media leadership team, after careful consideration, I have decided that I cannot accept the restructured position you have offered me. Effective immediately, I am resigning from my position at Creative Stream Media. This decision was not made lightly. Over the past 4 years, I have poured my heart and soul into building our content strategy department from the ground up. I am proud of what we have accomplished together. Increased average client subscriber growth from 15 to 300% year over year. Achieved a 92% client retention, highest of any department. Doubled departmental revenue while maintaining the lowest cost per acquisition in the company. Built and trained a team of content specialists who consistently exceed their targets. Developed proprietary strategies that have become industry best practices. I believe these results speak for themselves. However, I have come to realize that there is a fundamental misalignment between my values and the direction of this company. I believe that results matter more than politics, that loyalty should be reciprocated, and that good people should be treated with respect and honesty. I will be transitioning my current projects over the next 2 weeks to ensure a smooth handover. I wish the team continued success. Sincerely, Sarah Mitchell, former head of content strategy. I read it over 3 times, my hands shaking slightly. It was professional, but firm, respectful but clear about exactly why I was leaving. Most importantly, it laid out my accomplishments in a way that would be hard to ignore or diminish. I printed out 2 copies, one for Marcus and one for myself. Then I folded Marcus's copy, put it in an envelope, and wrote his name on the front in careful block letters. At exactly 2 p.m., I knew there would be another team meeting. Marcus had mentioned it in his calendar invite, something about Q4 planning and strategic alignment. Perfect timing. I waited until everyone had gathered in the conference room. Then I walked in and took my usual seat. Marcus was at the head of the table, pulling up a PowerPoint presentation on his laptop. "All right, everyone. Thanks for gathering. I wanted to talk about our Q4 strategy and how we're going to integrate Jessica into the team when she starts Monday." I let him talk for about 5 minutes about synergies and optimization and all the other buzzwords he loved to use. Then, when he paused to take a sip of water, I stood up. "Marcus, before we continue, I have something for you." The room went quiet. All eyes turned to me as I walked to the front of the table and placed the envelope in front of him. "What's this?" he asked, looking genuinely confused. "My resignation letter." The silence that followed was deafening. I could hear the hum of the air conditioning, the distant sound of traffic from the street below, even someone's stomach growling, but nobody spoke. Marcus picked up the envelope, opened it, and began reading. I watched his face change as he took in each word, each number, each carefully chosen phrase. His expression went from confusion to surprise to something that looked almost like panic. "Sarah, I think maybe we should discuss this privately," he said, his voice strained. "Actually, I think this is exactly where it should be discussed," I replied calmly, "in front of the team that I've worked with for 4 years. The team that deserves to know why their department head is leaving." Marcus's face flushed red. "Sarah, you're being dramatic. We offered you a perfectly good position. You offered me a demotion." I interrupted. "After 4 years of record-breaking performance, you offered me a demotion and a pay cut, and you expected me to be grateful for it." I could see my teammates looking back and forth between Marcus and me like they were watching a tennis match. Emma had her hand over her mouth. Jake was leaning forward in his chair, his eyes wide. "Now hold on," Marcus said, his voice getting louder. "You're making this sound worse than it is. We're bringing in someone with more experience to help the company grow." "That doesn't mean more experience," I said, and I could hear my voice getting stronger, more confident. "Marcus, I've increased our department's revenue by 200%. Our client retention rate is 92%. We have the lowest cost per acquisition in the entire company. What exactly does Jessica Wu bring that I don't?" Marcus opened his mouth, then closed it. He looked down at my resignation letter again, and I could see him processing the numbers I had included, numbers that he couldn't argue with because they were all true. "Harvard MBA, he finally said weakly. "Harvard MBA, I repeated. "That's it. That's your answer. A degree trumps 4 years of proven results." The room was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. I looked around at my team, my former team, and saw something in their faces that I hadn't expected. It wasn't pity anymore. It was respect, maybe even admiration. "Well," Marcus said, attempting to regain his composure, "if this is really what you want to do, Sarah, then I guess that's your choice. But I think you're making a mistake. Starting over somewhere new isn't easy." And then he laughed. It wasn't a mean laugh. Exactly. It was more like a nervous, dismissive chuckle. But in that moment, in front of my entire team, after everything I had just said, Marcus laughed at me. "I mean, let's be realistic here," he continued, still smiling. "You're not exactly C-suite material, Sarah. You're great at the tactical stuff, but strategy, big picture thinking, that's just not your wheelhouse." The room went completely silent again, but this time, the silence felt different. It felt dangerous. I stood there for a moment, letting his words hang in the air, letting everyone in that room understand exactly what kind of person they were working for. Then I smiled. "You know what, Marcus? You're absolutely right. I'm not C-suite material, at least not here." I reached into my bag and pulled out a second envelope. This one was thicker, more official looking, which is why I'm so excited to announce that I'll be joining Peterson and Associates as their new VP of Digital Strategy, starting next month. Marcus's smile disappeared. "Peterson and Associates," I continued, "happens to be the agency that just won the Technova account. You know, the $50 million account that you've been trying to land for 2 years?" I could see the color draining from Marcus's face. Technova was the white whale for digital agencies in Chicago. Landing them would have doubled our company's revenue overnight. They reached out to me yesterday, actually. Apparently they were impressed by the case studies I presented at the Digital Marketing Summit last month, the ones showcasing our 300% growth strategies. I placed the second envelope on the table. "That's a non-compete waiver I had my lawyer draw. Since you're restructuring the content strategy department anyway, I figured you wouldn't mind releasing me from my non-compete clause. It's really just a formality at this point." Marcus picked up the document with shaking hand. I could see him scanning the legal language, trying to understand what he was looking at. "Sarah, let's not be hasty here," he said, his voice completely different now. Gone was the dismissive tone, the condescending smile. "Maybe we can work something out. Maybe the Jessica thing was premature." "Oh, but Marcus," I said, still smiling, "you just said I'm not strategic enough for big picture thinking." Peterson and Associates seems to disagree, but hey, what do they know? They're only the third largest digital agency in the Midwest. I looked around the room one more time, My former teammates were staring at me with expressions I had never seen before. It wasn't pity or sympathy. It was something much better. It was respect. "Emma," I said, turning to our junior content creator, "you have my personal email. If you ever want to talk about new opportunities, don't hesitate to reach out." "Jake, same goes for you. Peterson is always looking for talented video editors." I picked up my bag and headed for the door. As I reached for the handle, I turned back to face Marcus one more time. "Oh, and Marcus, you might want to check your email." I sent a copy of my resignation letter to the entire leadership team, along with a detailed breakdown of our department's performance metrics. I thought they might be interested in understanding exactly what they're losing. I opened the door and stepped out into the hallway. Behind me, I could hear Marcus calling my name, but I didn't look back. I walked straight to my desk, packed up my personal items, and headed for the elevator. As the doors closed, I caught a glimpse of the conference room through the glass walls. Marcus was standing at the head of the table, my resignation letter still in his hands, while my former teammates sat in stunned silence. The elevator descended slowly, and with each floor I felt lighter. By the time I reached the lobby, I was practically floating. 3 months later, I'm sitting in my new office at Peterson & Associates, looking out at the Chicago skyline and thinking about that day. The Technova contract is going incredibly well. My new team respects me, challenges me, and values my input. My salary is almost double what I was making at Creative Stream. But the best part? Last week I got a LinkedIn message from Em. She and 3 other people from my old team are starting their own boutique content agency, and they want me to be their strategic advisor. Apparently my resignation letter had inspired them to realize they deserved better too. I found out later that Marcus never did sign that non-compete waiver. He was too rattled to read it carefully, and by the time his lawyers got involved, I was already at Peterson. It turns out the waiver was completely unnecessary anyway. My lawyer had structured my original employment contract to exclude strategic consulting from the non-compete clause. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had just accepted the demotion, kept my head down, and waited for something better to come along. But then I remember the look on Marcus's face when I placed that envelope on the table, and I know I made the right choice. The truth is, I never planned for that moment to be so dramatic. I just wanted to leave with my dignity intact. But sometimes, when you've been undervalued for so long, the simple act of knowing your worth feels like a revolution. Marcus was right about one thing. Starting over isn't easy, but it's a lot easier when you're starting from a place of strength, with a clear understanding of what you bring to the table. That resignation letter didn't just freeze the room. It changed everything. It reminded me who I really was, what I was capable of, and that sometimes the quietest moments really do create the loudest impact. And the next time someone laughs at my ambition, I'll be ready.